You remember our venerable house, opulent and imperial. It is a festering abomination. I beg you, return home, claim your birthright, and deliver our family from the ravenous, clutching shadows of the darkest dungeon.
Darkest Dungeon is a Lovecraftian-themed turn-based dungeon crawler, and it's the first game from indie developer Red Hook Studios. Darkest Dungeon was released on Steam in 2016 after some time in Steam's Greenlight program. Later in the same year, Darkest Dungeon would also be released on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita, and in 2018 it was released on the Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. I put a lot of time into this game, like over 60 hours or so. The plot of the game is fairly simple. The player travels to the estate of their ancestor who, as learned in the journals and found in the dungeons, opens a great evil beneath his mansion, the Darkest Dungeon. The player's ultimate goal in the game is to build a guild of adventurers to traverse the Darkest Dungeon and seal away the Cthulhian horrors and abominations that lurks inside. Players must recruit and upgrade their adventurers to get them the skill and sanity necessary for them to stand a fighting chance in the Darkest Dungeon. Darkest Dungeon uses turn-based gameplay and has a variety of different classes of adventurers who all have unique abilities. This allows for the player to put together good teams of adventurers who they think might work well together. For example, certain teams can have a bunch of bleed characters and make all the enemies bleed around them. Adventurers also gain quirks and traits during their careers that give buffs and debuffs to their character that last for a permanent amount of time, but the player can try to manage their character's traits by spending money they get in dungeons to pay for medical treatment that can remove bad quirks or diseases. Most enemies you come across in the game are threatening but manageable. Not too hard to kill, but they also have the ability to kill your characters as well. On the other hand, all the boss fights are incredibly threatening, dealing tons of amount of damage and stress all at once, with special moves and special attacks. Necromancers, giant pig abominations, killer mermaids. I've never gone into a boss fight where I thought the entire team would live. Wait, why did we just send 4 fleshy dudes to fight a cannon? Oh, that's not good. One of Darkest Dungeon's standout features that gave the game a lot of momentum before its release is its stress system. The system uses stress as a separate kind of damage other than physical. Characters can get stressed by being too uncomfortable in the dungeons or by attacks from certain enemies. If a character hits 100 stress, the resolve is tested, creating a do-or-die mentality for your party. Failing the test puts them in different panic modes, while succeeding makes them fight harder. After hitting 100 stress, characters might start acting on their own, not accepting healing, attacking party members, but mostly, they just say some frightening things. If a character receives too much stress damage, they can just have a heart attack and die. Oh, that guy said something weird? Heart attack. That skeleton guy poured his drink on my shirt? Heart attack. While the gameplay and stress system are both great, the best part about the game is the aesthetic. Thematically, Darkest Dungeon is brilliant. The Cthulhian vibe of everything, the intensity of the narrator, the colorfully dark pop-up book character models, everything in the world is bleak and tainted, and the game does a fantastic job at making it feel that way. Enemies are designed to look disgusting and intimidating, and characters look like potential heroes, but also like cannon fodder. Cutscenes are beautifully rendered in a bright gothic horror style with storybook-like animation. The game won a handful of awards for its narrator alone. Another unique quality of Darkest Dungeon is its difficulty. The game is hard. The game is so hard. While it doesn't actively try to kill you or make you lose, it does make you worry about every fight, because every fight can go bad. Every encounter could kill you. You have to buy equipment to deal with the party members bleeding out, or getting poisoned, or acquiring a random disease, or getting crit for twice their health, or even going crazy. The game even tells the player at the beginning that the characters are going to die. But even though you can always get a new party member, the time and money it takes to level them up to get strong enough to fight the next boss fight makes it so you don't want your people to die. You could just run 4 level 1 Joe Schmoes into the Darkest Dungeon, but as you're sending them out, they will literally beg you not to send them in. They will not win. And with almost 70 hours in the game, I've never gotten close to finishing it. The Darkest Dungeon is a level 6 dungeon, and I've only gotten a couple characters at level 5. But that's the appeal. Everyone's expendable, and they get better. And you get better. While Darkest Dungeon has a lot of great aspects, there are a few that I don't particularly care for. For example, the enemy types are a bit limited, and I wish more of the middle level enemies were different rather than tougher versions of early level enemies with a couple new things. Dead enemies also leave their corpses on the ground as an obstacle to fight around, which is interesting, but only a couple classes can easily get rid of them. Oh, and the caretaker of my guild that hangs around the town and blocks certain stress-removing facilities can go to hell. Adventurers that have certain quirks can only use certain facilities to get rid of their stress, like Flagellant, where the person can only flagellate themselves to remove stress. So what's the point of having a character that just stands around and blocks me from doing things that I need to do? Overall, I give Darkest Dungeon a rating of 90%. I can't say how much I love Darkest Dungeon. Both being an aesthetic pleasure and a challenging RPG, Darkest Dungeon is the kind of game that draws people in and chews them up. Some people say the game is too hard, and it's definitely not for everyone. But I don't think it's too hard, I actually think it's just hard enough. The game isn't trying to kill you, but it won't be easy to survive.